Wife handcuffed by husband with iron spout. She didn't dare to resist the whole time. The husband even put a lock on the back and paraded her through the streets, just to punish his wife for her words today. When he spied on his daughter in the shower in the morning, the wife decided it was inappropriate to stop him. The husband threw a slap right at her and said it was God's will for a father to watch his daughter bathe. With that, he pulled out his belt and whipped his wife severely. The daughter, Lizzie, heard her mother's screams and peeped through the door, too scared to go out and stop her. At the end of the night, her mother was whipped again. She returned to her room covered in bruises and wept as she hugged her daughter. Lizzie thinks her mother is too weak. She despised her mother from the bottom of her heart. The next day, her mother is forced to attend a service with iron cuffs on her mouth. The priest on the stage is the father. He preached from the stage. Women are made for men and wives must obey their husbands unconditionally. Lizzie saw how weak her mother was. She felt ashamed. I'll never be like you, I'd rather die first. The mother left with tears in her eyes. Soon after, her body fell from the ceiling. Lizzie watched in disbelief. She began to regret what she had just said, and the husband on stage was furious. She cursed her wife that she would never be reincarnated. After his wife's death, the husband's behavior became more and more aggressive. One morning he woke Lizzie up and said he wanted her to go to church. Lizzie followed him into the church and realized that her father wanted to marry her. Hearing her father's words grow bolder and bolder, Lizzie rushes outside. She was dragged back by her father and forced to put iron cuffs on her. He then dragged Lizzie's legs through the mud. The girl's white skirt was covered in mud. The father then stripped her naked and whipped her severely. Finally, as his daughter cried, he gently stroked her back. Time has come. I will be gentle. This night the men violated Lizzie. Just after dawn, Lizzie escaped forever while her father was still asleep. Only the blood on the bed will forever be a shadow on Lizzie's mind. Lizzie's greatest fear in the house was her father. The perverted father who would come through the door at any moment while she was in the shower with her mother. She was so scared that she wrapped her arms around her chest. He even made his daughter rub him. Even when she was changing her clothes, he would peek through the door. When the mother tried to stop him, she was beaten up. Eventually, the mother was too humiliated to hang herself. Lizzie escaped from her father's control and fled the house, but soon she collapses from exhaustion and is rescued by the owner of a van. The driver saw how pretty she was, so he sells her into a brothel. The owner treats her warmly. Lizzie thought she had finally escaped from her clutches. What she didn't realize was that this was a new hell. The women here are all dressed up in sexy, sophisticated clothes. At night, in every room, there were sounds of sex. Fearful and curious, she peeks through the door to see what's going on inside. Soon she's in the sights of the customers. A man is willing to pay a lot of money for her. Lizzie is too frightened to make a sound. At that moment a prostitute came to her rescue. She said she was willing to accompany the client. The customer reluctantly agreed but made a request. I'll go along with that. But then she gets to watch. Oh, it sounds like a fine idea to me. It'll be most educational, I'm sure. Lizzie can only watch from the sidelines. But this male guest has a strange fetish. He curses at the woman on the bed. Lizzie raises her pistol in anger, but the man gets more excited. He walks up to Lizzie and makes a provocative remark. The prostitute shoots the man to protect Lizzie. She is soon guillotined. In this town, a woman who disobeyed a man would be punished. Lizzie fell on her bed crying in remorse, but the boss walked in and said that this was the way society was. If you don't play by the rules, you'll be punished. Time is calm, I'm gonna be general. His tone was identical to her father's. Lizzie felt desperate, and so, Lizzie became a real prostitute. As she grew up, Lizzie forgot the scars of her childhood. She makes a good friend, Jenny. One day, Jenny pissed off a customer and had her tongue cut out in public, but Lizzie hid behind the door, afraid to speak out. Just like when she saw her mother being whipped, Jenny has since become mute. Lizzie practices mute with her to make up for the guilt she feels. Jenny was tired of the brothel life. She asked someone to find her a marriage. The other man has a son who doesn't mind that Jenny is mute. Jenny shares her happiness with Lizzie. She plans to pack her bags and go to him tonight. But this night, the brothel has been taken over by a mysterious customer. The owner has asked everyone to dress up to make the customer happy. Lizzie could never have imagined the demons of her childhood that awaited her. Her daughter dances in front of her father, only to be beaten by him. You are mine, it is God's will. It turns out, the client of the brothel tonight is Lizzie's father. He'd been looking for Lizzie for years and finally recognized her, especially the two moles on her back. They were so familiar to the touch. He takes Lizzie into the room and asks her to serve him. Lizzie, of course, refuses and is beaten by her father. Hearing her best friend's screams, Jenny rushed into the room. fearful but brave. She takes her knife and cuts a bloody mark on the man's face. The man kills her in anger. Lizzie hides and is terrified. Trembling, she picked up the knife and stabbed her father. Her father fell in the blood. She shoved the knife into his hand and threw the paraffin lamp over Jenny's body. The fire covered up the crime. She decided to go and live as Jenny in her fiancé's house. She cut out her tongue without hesitation. Lizzie also became a mute girl. She went to her fiancé's house as Jenny and married him. They were in love and life was peaceful. Until one day Lizzie heard that a new minister had arrived at the church. She found out that the man in front of her was her father. Little did she know that he had survived the fire and was looking for Lizzie. He found out that her father had killed Lizzie's husband after she got married. Lizzie took her children and fled to her father-in-law's house, but her father ambushed her son in the snow and shot him dead. He then sneaks into the house at night and kills the father-in-law. Finally, he kidnaps Lizzie and her daughter. Lizzie's father is about to kill her daughter in front of Lizzie. Out of the strength of her mother's love, Lizzie exploded. She forced herself free of the ropes and threw a paraffin lamp on the man. She shoots the man again just in time to kill him. The end of the story. Lizzie is arrested by the sheriff for murder. She takes a long look at her daughter, smiles and falls into the lake. Perhaps death was the best relief for her. Lizzie has spent her life in the shadow of patriarchal authority. She tried to resist her father's transgressions but was afraid to do so. She can only run away again and again, but her life is still ruined by her father. What the film is trying to say. Perhaps the film is about women in that era who tried to resist the patriarchy but were unable to break free. The end of disobedience is death. But the good news is that Lizzie gave her life to put out the darkness for her daughter. Her daughter could live in the sunlight. That's enough for Lizzie to die without regret.